Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Congratulations. We've made it through another week. Well, not this week, but a week since I last saw you guys. So I hope your guys' week is off to a great start and finishing up well. I know that there has been a lot of energy surrounding this week as we have election week and the election came to a close yesterday. And obviously that's going to be a major thing. We're not going to be talking about the election or any type of election results or any of that stuff. That's probably going to be for next week's stream. We're going to talk about how the election might impact what we're seeing for the rest of this year and into 2025. But this week, tonight, we are talking about, well, we're talking about a market crash, but maybe not quite in the way that you think that we're talking about a market crash. As always, if you watch the stream, you know that I kind of don't like crash bros, right? Which is the name for these guys that have been saying that the market's going to crash for like, I don't know, 10 years or 15 years. And that's actually how they make their money and get their views, is by just talking about doomsday stuff. So I found an article that talks about how some things in today's market are actually mirroring what happened in 2007. And some people are kind of running with that and they're going, oh, there's going to be a market crash because there's been a couple of parallels. However, while there's a few things that are similar, more things are actually very, very different. So tonight, we're going to be talking about why we are not looking at a housing market crash really anytime in the immediate future. And we're going to be talking about why that's the case. And we're going to be talking also about why it's not 2007 or 2008. Plus, I have a huge announcement, guys. This is my first stream where I'm going to have a guest. I have a guest tonight, and you'll meet her just in a second. But myself and one of my good friends from up in Washington, we're going to be talking about these articles. We've actually got 4 articles to go over tonight. I don't know if we'll get to all of them because we'll probably be here all freaking night, especially at the rate that I talk. So, but we have a couple really good ones regarding the subject that we're going to be talking about. But at any time, of course, if you guys have any questions, whether or not it's related to the article or not related to the article, pop it into the comments. Let me know. Put it in chat. Myself and my guest, Amanda, will be happy to talk about your real estate questions. And whatever real estate crazy stories you have, we'll be happy to entertain them. And also, please, at the bottom, right in the center, probably right there, there's a little thumbs up icon. If you could do me a favor and just hit that thumbs up, it helps me out. It helps the stream out. And if you really like the stream and you like the information that you're hearing, please hit subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really, really helps out the channel. And lastly, before we get started and we start jumping into all this mumbo jumbo about real estate and market crashes, drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know kind of what market you're in, what you're seeing in your marketplace. So just let me know the city or county and state that you're watching from, because I'm always curious to see where everybody's tuning in from. So without any further ado, before we jump in the article, you guys got to meet my guest. So her name is Amanda, and I'm going to bring her on stage right now. Hey, Amanda.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. It's my pleasure. And so to give some context to the viewers, so Amanda and I were in the same YouTube real estate group. We're accountability partners. We help keep each other on track. And Amanda is up in Washington, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the stream. But it's kind of nice because, of course, we're going to kind of get my opinion down here in Southern California on the Southern West Coast, and then she's up on kind of like the Northern West Coast. So we'll be able to hear kind of some differences there. So first and foremost, with just really briefly, Amanda, if you could give me, I'm going to ask you a question and just give me like the 1-sentence answer.
Okay.
So Amanda, do you think there's going to be a market crash in the next 2 years that is at all similar to 2007 or 2008, based on what you know right now and you've seen right now?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. See why she's on my
I shouldn't say that, because there could be like some really bad economic things that could happen. But true. It would have to be like extreme.
Yeah, and there we go. Like the typical realtor thing, like we always say stuff, but it's never an absolutes because we don't want to be nailed for something that we said incorrectly. So I do the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, you're exactly right. Now I agree. Like there's nothing that we see right now with the data that we have right now where we would anticipate any type of major crash. And, it seems like no matter what you do, Amanda, you're always hearing about, whether it's like scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, looking at your Google News feed or whatever you iPhone users have. Like, it always seems like there's some type of new, oh my God, housing bubble, market crash, like theory or something like that. And at least that's what I see. Amanda, do you kind of see the same thing?
Can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
About myself.
Yes, sure. Yes.
Okay, so rewind me back to like 2015, 2017. And this is like right when things have kind of picked up from a couple years from the '08 bubble. Like we're starting to see prices incline. Yep. And I was looking to buy a house at that time. And this was before I was in real estate. I was going, no way, it's going to crash. There's no way these home prices are going to sustain. And they just kept going up and up and up. And I really kicked myself for not purchasing then. I ended up finally, making a purchase. And I'm so glad, just a couple of years ago. And I'm just so glad that I did, because there just seems to be no end to the houses prices rising. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And actually, I was in a similar boat. I got I don't want to say I got lucky twice, but I was kind of in a fortunate position. And of course, the work that I did put me in the position to capitalize on opportunity. So it's not all luck, right? But some timing aligned. And I bought my first house in October of 2019 with my wife, which was just mere moments before the pandemic. And so that was a property that needed a lot of work. We fixed it up. My wife is an amazing interior designer, and she made our house just look like absolutely phenomenal. And then we sold that one in 2022, and we bought another house. And now I'm sitting in a house that is what kind of my wife and I deem as like, our forever home. And I was thinking about it the other night. I was like, man, if I had to buy this house right now, I wouldn't be able to. Like there would be no way. And what's funny, Amanda, is that every time I come up to somebody that has a little opposition, and in fact, every once in a while, I'll have a guy come into chat. His name is Innovative Solutions. I don't know if he'll be here tonight. Hopefully he is. Innovative, if you're in the chat, say hi. But he's one of these guys that he's one of the crash bros I like. He's kind of like, oh yeah, it's going to crash, but I'm open to hearing about stuff. And I had another client that was very crash friendly. He was like, oh, it's going to crash, Joe. Like, you better brace yourself and you better prepare. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And I asked him a question. And Amanda, after I ask you this, I'm going to ask if you've ever done this. But I asked him a question. I said, let's just say his name's Michael. I said, Michael, you could have bought a house 2 years ago. But you chose to wait. And now we're here today. Would you rather buy the same house today, or would you rather buy it 2 years ago? And he goes, oh, 2 years ago, I could have got a 5.5% or 5% interest rate. I probably would have paid $100K less. Yeah, I definitely would have. I go, okay, it's good to know. Now, would you go back 5 years ago and buy a house, the same house? He goes, oh, definitely, for sure I would. That's like, I would have had like a 3% interest rate. It would have been $250K cheaper. Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, it's good. Okay, now go back 10 years. Would you rather buy a house 10 years ago or today? And so finally, by the third time I asked this, he goes, okay, Joe, I know what you're getting at. I know what you're doing. And I see what you're saying. So have you ever come across clients like in your region, in your market, in your sphere, that are these people that I don't want to say they're like hard-headed, but maybe they're a little bit stubborn and they don't like realize? And have you ever had to like, and I guess, how do you try to like show them or prove to them like, hey, yeah, market crashes could happen, but like the odds of that are very, very slim and they're very rare. So how do you kind of demonstrate to them like, hey, buying a house is a good investment if you can afford it?
Yeah, well, the hard thing is real estate and buying homes is a huge financial investment for anybody.
Yeah.
But really where the trouble comes from is it's a very emotional. You walk into that house and you immediately know if it is or isn't for you, or like, you're a savvy buyer and you don't want to be taken advantage of. And so you can always find the thing that is wrong. And I remember right when rates started to kind of come up and they were like hitting the fives, I had a lot of clients that were starting to get cold feet because they were worried that they were paying too much. And oh my goodness, if they would have backed out of those deals, they'd be nowhere near home ownership.
Right.
So I think really like the good thing to do, like, data doesn't lie.
Yep.
And there is a lot of graphs back there that shows home appreciation over like the last 70 years. And I want to say that there's only like literally 4 times in the last 70 years that homes have devalued. And in those they're short, they're only for a couple of years. And then as soon as they come out of that devalue stage, they rocket up in price. And when you look at this data and you look at how real estate performs, I'm a big advocate of real estate over the stock market too. And when you just look at how it performs, I mean, if you're trying to flip a house, you should very much be concerned about the market right this second. If you're going to live in a house for a couple of years, don't even think twice about it. But find something that's right for you and your budget.
Yeah. And you know what? You said something that was so good. You said, I prefer real estate over the stock market. And we all have our own things, diversification is good. Have a little bit here, have a little bit there. I know people like their ears are going to bleed, but I'm like, have some real estate, have some stock, have some Bitcoin, like diversify, like spread it around, right? Spread it around. The one thing, not maybe the one thing, but maybe the biggest thing specifically to that statement that you made, Amanda, is like, can you live in a stock? No, you can't live in a stock. You can't live in your mutual fund, right? But you can live in your house, right? And you can have security and safety in your home. You can share your home with your family. You can make memories there. And that whole time, there's an extremely, extremely high likelihood that it's also making you money.
Yeah.
So.
And, for the person, like I said, I was the person who didn't want to be taken advantage of, and I need data to make sure I'm doing everything right. I also have that control aspect, and I can't control what another company is doing with their stocks, but I can control what's happening in homes that I own.
Yeah. That's a really, really great point. And to be honest with you, that's something that like, I never thought of that argument. And that's a great point because you're right. You can control when you buy, when you sell. Are you going to try to add value, to the property?
I'm laughing because it is not all sunshine and rainbows, though. It comes with a lot of headaches. That's true, right? There's that aspect too, but
Right. As my grandmother always said, all good things that are worth doing are typically hard. So like that's just kind of the way that it works. So. But I'm glad you brought up the point about home values and their resilience and the quality of the investment, because we're going to look at one of the tables that you sort of mentioned to kind of put some of these people's not put their worries to ease, but just like you said, demonstrate to the data that, man, 9 times out of 10, housing is a very, very good investment. So without any further ado, let's get a article up on the screen here. I didn't set this up before. There we go. Okay. So again, if you follow the stream, you kind of know how this works. Got a couple articles. I typically try to pick recent articles to talk about. This one comes from Newsweek, and this one came out, I don't know where here we go, November 4th. So just a couple of days ago. And this one caught my eye because, again, it's talking about how, housing market is starting to mirror 2007. And obviously, I wanted to read that. That's intriguing to me. I am an anti-crash bro, and so when I hear articles that are sort of alluding to the potential parallels and correlations to 2007, 2008, they always pique my interest because I want to know what they're saying and see how wrong they are. So let's get into it. Today's housing market is mirroring what happened in 2007, according to a new report released today. So, the very first, okay, well, what's mirroring what? Like, the market has a lot of different intricacies and facets that go into it. So what are those things? The National Association of Realtors found the share of new homes purchased in 2024 increased slightly to 15%, but existing home purchases declined to 85%. That reflects the same housing market that existed in 2007, when new home purchases made up roughly 15% of the market share and existing homes were 85%. So kind of interesting here, Amanda. They're talking about basically the portion of new home sales versus re-home sales. And for those of you watching that, maybe don't know our realtor lingo, a new home sale is exactly that. It's sales of brand new homes when you buy them directly from the builder. It's basically like used cars versus new cars, right? So resale homes are homes that have been, built and they've been around. They're not brand new. They've already had a chain of title with an owner. So those are resale homes. And the very first metric is the fact that in 2007, we had about a 15-85 split. And right now we're looking at about a 15-85 split between new home purchases and resale purchases. Amanda, do you guys have a lot of new home builds? Is new home, are new home products popular in your market?
They are, yeah. And we're a little bit of a smaller market. So we don't have a lot of like the big like Toll Brothers and those kind of companies here, but we do have a couple of family companies that are popping up neighborhoods like crazy.
Mm. And do you see a lot of buyers, in the last like 6 to 12 months, have they been gravitating a little bit more towards the new builds?
Well, this is really interesting because the way that I'm digesting this, it's actually a little bit scary, but not in the sense of like crash 2007 scary. What I see is I think the reason that older homes have stopped selling is because of the golden handcuffs of people have low interest rates and they're not selling their older homes. Yeah. On a new construction home, you don't have that issue. And I think that might have something to do with what's going on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you that is a probably one of the leading differences in my area. I'm in super populated Southern California. Like if you come across an empty parking space, you can sell it for like 10 grand. Like empty vacant land is like a premium around here, but we still do have people building, repurposing other lots. And we do have the big builders, Toll Brothers, KB, Meritage, fill in the blank with all your major builders. And I've noticed, and probably what you noticed, along with those sort of golden handcuffs, that lock-in effect that current homeowners have, builders lose money every single day that their home's not sold. Whereas homeowners are still like living in the home. They're not losing money by living in the home and paying the mortgage and paying utilities, but builders are, and they're offering some great incentives. They can offer rate buy downs. They can offer upgrade packages. Plus you have the attraction of it's a brand new home. We have a 10-year warranty. I don't have to worry about anything, no maintenance, no repairs for at least like 10 years. And so it seems like that's what's, doing it a lot, kind of stoking the flames for people to be attracted to those products, which, makes a lot of sense. People are very cost conscientious right now.
So what's really interesting, and I didn't realize this until recently because I don't have any of these big builders, but a lot of these big builders have their own financing institutes. So they can offer extremely low rates compared to market rate. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the attractiveness to these new construction homes.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why those buy down, like a 2-run buy down or a 3-run buy down they're so aggressive and they're still able to offer them. And hey, if you're a buyer and you're not looking for a specific home and a new build is an option, you can go, hey, I can either take 6% right now or 6.5% right now, or I can get 4.5% for at least like 2 or 3 years. And hey, that's good. And what if rates do come down and I can refinance? I might be able to save a lot of money, doing that. So yeah, the whole financing thing is a huge feather in the cap for the new build. So let's see, right off the bat, when I hear, 15% of home sales are new home sales and 85 are resales. 2007, 2008, to me, this is a nothing statistic. Amanda, how do you feel? Do you think there's any weight here to this stat?
Yeah, quite a coincidence these numbers are popping up, but the reasons, the fundamentals behind them are so much different.
Yes, I'm glad. Amanda, that's a perfect
Yeah.
segue. That's a perfect segue.
Oh.
Where we're going next. So let's see what they have to say. Alex Bean, a financial literacy instructor for the University of Tennessee at Martin, said, "This shouldn't sound the alarm yet, though, for those concerned. It means another great recession is on the horizon. Before anyone raises the red flag on numbers being similar to 2007, it's important to note the process of getting a mortgage for a home, be it a new build or existing property, is far more comprehensive than prior to the Great Recession," Bean told Newsweek. "It's not so much this time around about the housing market experiencing the same financial conditions as prior to the last housing crash, but rather a mixture of high interest rates and high prices." If I could just take this paragraph and shout it from the rooftops, that would make me feel so much better, because, like Alex is saying in this article, this is just one little thing that happens to overlap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening, and there's just a couple little things that have overlapped. And quite frankly, this does not mean that we're facing another 2007 or 2008 style recession. And a lot of that has to do with what realtors have been saying for a while now, and that is, supply and demand and mortgage lending strictness for borrowers to get loans. And that's something that some people, they just don't believe me. They go, you try to tell them, well, hey, all the people that are getting loans now are highly qualified. They've got cash in the bank. They've got good credit scores. Their income is being verified. Their debts are being verified. Their student loans are all being verified. All that's happening. Yeah. And so if they're getting approved and buying a home, unless there is a significant change in their life or lifestyle, they really should have no problem continuing to afford that home. Of course, there will always be foreclosures. There will always be people that something happens and they lose their job, they lose their ability to work, and things will happen. But this one overlapping metric shouldn't, as Alex says, raise the alarm bells. And there are a couple other things that we've seen that overlap, but kind of the moral of the story is it's kind of grasping at the whole market crash thing.
Yeah, very much so. And I would say too, we are still kind of climbing out of that 07, 08 crash, if you really think about it. And what I'm talking about is the supply. We are so short. We quit building homes for a decade, essentially.
Yep.
Because so many builders went bankrupt from that. And now they all learned their lesson. And so they're building super slow and cautious.
Yep.
That we are still crawling out of that hole. And that's part of the supply issue.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's kind of like the law of averages, right? So 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009 hit, and builders are like, oh dang, we're out of here later. Like, we're closing up shop. Yeah. I'm never going to build another house again, because there was just so much unsold inventory. They lost all their money. Yeah. And what we saw from that is okay. So, and I have a graph. We're going to illustrate this just in a little bit here. We saw, 2009, way below building, 2010, way below, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way up until about 2018, 2019. And we were still below. So that means we were below average for 10 years. Yeah. Okay. And now we want to get the average up. Well, that means we would need 10 years of equally above average building, right? It's like when you go back to sophomore year in algebra class, and you're like, oh God, I have a C and there's only 6 weeks left of the school year. How do I get my grade up? And the teacher's like, there's not enough. It's the law of averages. It's just not good enough. I'm sorry about that. And that's kind of where we are with home inventory. And it's a good point to bring up, Amanda, is that, we're still facing the repercussions of 2007 and 2008. I think a lot of people forget I don't want to say they don't I don't want to say they forgot the impact that 2007, 2008 had. Obviously, that sticks in all of our minds, whether you're a Gen X or millennial or a boomer that probably lost a lot of your retirement. But I think a lot of people, whenever there's a very traumatic situation, like take COVID, for example, I think a lot of people are eager to move on very quickly. And they go, oh, hey, we're out of it. Look, we're good. We're good. We're good. Everything is good now. We're back to normal. And I think a lot of people were thinking, hey, we're back to normal in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, when it came specifically to housing, when in reality, we weren't really back to normal. And I think COVID kind of magnified that. And COVID was kind of like, oh, you thought everything was stable in housing, but now we're going to jumble it up. And the supply issue is now we're feeling it. We're feeling the effects of 2007 and 8 right now today within the supply realm.
And I think that there's even other things that are contributing to this. Say, boomers, they're staying in their homes. People are aging in place, so we're not seeing that turnover. Yep. There's just a lot of we've got private equity buying up homes. That didn't start until 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah, right before the pandemic.
Oh, you're right. Yes. So we've got that,
when they were
that going on.
Yep.
There's there's just so much going on.
Yeah. And you make a good point about the boomers. I did a video about this. I did a live stream about this called Boomergeddon. And everybody was like, oh, the boomers are going to sell all their homes. It's like, it was so funny. There was a couple articles and you would have swore like the picture they painted was like, all these boomers are going to line up on the starting line and they're going to have pens and they're all about to sign a listing agreement to put their house on the market. And it was just like, okay, go now. And all these homes are going to come onto the market. I kid you not. Some of these crash bros were talking about how, the Boomergeddon, the silver tsunami, all of these boomers now are going to start downsizing and we're going to have a flood of homes hit. And guess what didn't happen?
Yeah. You know what will happen though? I don't know if we're going to see a bunch of listings. Those homes are going to be inherited by the younger generations that can't afford homes.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. I think that we're going to start to move to a model in the United States, which this isn't anything new. This is nothing new. In the US, in the last 70 years, this hasn't been the typical thing that we do. But I think we're going to start seeing two new normals within the United States housing ecosystem. Number one, just like in Europe, we're going to see houses passed down generation to generation. Mm-hmm. We're going to start to see that again because we're going to start to see people go, I got no shot. There's no shot. Mm-hmm. And the only way that I have to own a property is when my parents pass, I'm going to get the house. Now, if you've got brothers or sisters, good luck. That's going to be a tough one. The other thing that I think is going to happen, and Amanda, let me know if you agree or disagree. I think that we are going to take a more Eastern style cultural approach when it comes to multi-generational living.
Oh, 100%, 100%. We're going to see it with, helping parents not being able to go into care facilities and they're living with families. We're going to see, the Gen Xers have their kids longer. We're going to see the millennials, their kids are going to be living with them longer. We could see 3 generations in a household. No
Absolutely.
problem, I think. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then you take into consideration, okay, so boomers are aging in place. They're living longer. Not only are they living longer, but they're living more healthy longer. Right. And, with senior care being so expensive, in addition to that, it's like, hey, it makes a lot of sense. Like, mom's 80 years old, but she's moving and grooving. Like she's okay. And, she could probably live on her own, but she could just live with us or we could move in with her. We could all live together. And then on the flip side, if you've got a 1 or 2 or 3-year-old, how much is childcare going for these days? Like I don't have kids. I only have a cat, so I can't really comment on that. But I know that childcare is like some astronomical figure per month. If there's anybody in chat that is paying for childcare, if you could just let me know how much you pay or what someone in your family pays, I would like to know without Googling it. If someone could put in the comments, like what the average childcare cost is per month for like the United States family or household, I'd love to know because now you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now you've got mom and dad living with you. So they don't need their house. And they're going to help with childcare, which is going to save on the childcare costs. So I really do think that the multi-generational thing is going to really pick up and skyrocket at some point.
Joe's parents, wherever you are out there, if he has kids, he has an agenda for you.
I do. I have a plan. I think my mom would be super stoked if she heard my plan. She'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Sure. Let's continue on. So the small but noticeable uptick in new build purchases is more than likely a result of builders offering more aggressive incentives than other properties. Being said, some builders have offered lower interest rates and prices to get buyers in the doors of new properties. Amanda, it's like we read ahead. It's like we could tell the future. It's crazy. It's almost like we know what we're talking about. Oh. Alan Chang, a title and escrow expert, echoed this statement, saying builders have had a big push to incentivize buyers with rate buydowns or upgrades to ensure inventory is sold as soon as possible. With traditional home sellers still wanting to keep their historically low interest rates, again, lock-in effect, we've talked about this, the available inventory has still remained low, propping up valuations, Chang told Newsweek. Some buyers have seen that new home builds have been an attractive offering due to all of the promotions that builders have put in place. This should be one of the reasons for an increase in new home sales and a decrease in existing inventory sales. So it almost is like the lack of resale inventory is leading towards a lack of resale inventory because buyers are kind of being gently nudged into the new build sector because they can get better rates, better upgrades, probably not better pricing. That's the one thing where new builds, they're not going to discount the price very much, but what they will do is they will give you a very good rate and they'll give you incentives like, we'll give you a $25,000 upgrade bonus if you buy a house before the end of the month or whatever, kind of like a new car like promotion works. This it makes a lot of sense. If you're out there and you need a home and resale, there's not a lot of inventory, plus it's more expensive and you're not super picky and you're like, hey, a new home is fine. And you can go buy a new home. You can pick the lot, you can pick the upgrades, you can pick the flooring, you can pick the backsplash, and they're going to give you a discount on that stuff. I mean, it seems pretty attractive. That doesn't mean the larger housing market is in a solid place, though, Chang said. There's still limited inventory and a larger affordability crisis. Yep, that's absolutely true. The median home sale price in the United States today is $428,281, according to Redfin. While that's a 3.9% decline year over year, it still prices out many Americans, especially first-time buyers, from participating in the housing market at all. What's funny is that reminds me of another, I'm just like beating up the Crash Bros tonight. I'm going to get so much flack in the comments on the replay, I'm sure. That's another really interesting point. 3.9% decline year over year. A lot of the crashes go, prices are falling. They're down almost 5% year over year. And you're like, oh my God, what they won't tell you is that prices are up 30% over the last 5 years.
And that is so hyper local to market. So like what we were just saying about not building, and a lot of these towns that boomed over COVID, they actually got overbuilt. Like look at what's happening in Austin. So like they're having massive decreases in prices. Yep. Here where I'm at, we've appreciated another 5% this year. Yeah. And it's just a stable economy type place. We don't have those big up and downs. I can say though that I do a lot of real estate in a vacation market. And so where second homes are, they're feeling some of that decrease in value. But what's it like down where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, LA County, it's crazy, but this is where everybody wants to be. I mean, it's really remarkable the resilience that this market has had. Even as an industry professional that looks at properties all day, I still sometimes get to the point where I'm like, I can't believe that sold for that. And there's really no slowdown in sight, or at least the immediate sight. We haven't seen really any price retraction really at all. Maybe, prices aren't escalating as quickly as they were for quite a while. But every once in a while, you might see a house that's been on the market for 30 or 35 days, get a price drop, and then it sells. And you know what's crazy, Amanda? It's crazy for us to be sitting here and me tell you, oh my God, a property was on the market for 30 days, so they cut the price. Like 30 days on the market is nothing. Like that is like a baby. In fact, typically, historically, in my market, we have considered a new listing to be anything from 0 to 3 weeks. So to think that like at 4 weeks, you're like, oh my gosh, we need to reduce the price and get some traction here. I mean, that just shows you how resilient this market has been. Yeah. So yeah, no major declines at all. And I think that like most markets, the coasts are going to be pretty resilient, except for Florida. But I think Washington, Oregon, California, New York, Georgia, all these other places that are along the Eastern Seaboard, Virginia, I think they're all going to. The Carolinas are doing very well right now. So
do you want to talk about news screwing with your head? So I hear up here in Washington, because we have a lot of people from California moving to the Pacific Northwest, and all I hear is people are getting out of California so freaking fast. So I had no idea that LA was doing so good in real estate. Like I would have thought, and like you hear like New York's kind of like not doing great in real estate right now, but so that's just how like news can just really, unless you get to the source,
And if you look up, and I just did this because one of the Crash Bros made, and I'm just like, I'm a sucker. If you're a Crash Bro, like I'm gravitating to you like a moth to flame. One of the biggest Crash Bros, I won't bring up his name, but everybody will know, he is the biggest Crash Bro out there, if not one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And he talks about how people are fleeing from California. They cannot leave fast enough. So I went to the Google machine and I put into Google how many people left California. And there's a couple different numbers depending on when you look in the year and whatnot. And I looked and I did some quick math. Now, just in LA County alone, there's 10 million people just in LA County. That's my county. So a lot of very highly populated. And the total number of people that left California was less than about 3% of the entire population of the state. And no, I'm sorry, 3% of the population of LA County. It's less than 1% of the entire population of the state. So are people leaving? Yeah, sure. But is it going to make a difference? No, no, it's not. And in fact, probably it would be a little bit more helpful if more people left, because it would probably stabilize the real estate pricing a little bit more to increase affordability. Okay. The current housing market continues to be generally unhealthy due to still limited available inventory in many major markets across the nation. Oh, we already read this. We're going to continue. Oh, and that's, I think, is this? Yeah. And this is the end of our article. So, it's interesting that these two little things line up, and I actually, Newsweek's an okay source, but the proof is in the pudding, people. Like if you just read the headline of housing market is mirroring 2007 according to your report, you'd be like, oh shoot. And if you read the first couple, you'd be like, oh God, no one's buying resale houses. This is a problem. But then as you go further, you realize actually this is kind of a nothing. And so the next thing I want to go to is this is an article from Keeping Current Matters, and I am going to put a disclaimer out. Okay, so Keeping Current Matters is a real estate and real estate agent resource website. However, they put out a lot of very, very good data, and the data that they're putting out there and the charts that they put out is coming from good sources. So if you're familiar with Keeping Current Matters, or you just go to Keeping Current Matters and you're like, oh, it all just talks about what real estate agents should be talking about, and positive stuff about the real estate market. To some degree, yes, but the data and the information is really good. And we're going to talk about how in these three graphs, they're going to show how today's inventory differs from 2008. And inventory is one of the key differences between 2008, and where we're at today. And we don't really have to kind of like go into reading this whole thing word for word, but there's a couple things here. Here's why experts are so confident that there's not going to be a market crash. For the market and home prices to crash, there would have to be too many houses for sale. But the data doesn't show that's happening. Right now, there's an undersupply, not an oversupply like last time, 2008. And that's true even with the inventory growth we've seen this year. You see, the housing supply comes from three main sources. Homeowners deciding to sell their houses, existing homes, resale homes, new home construction, newly built homes, or distressed properties, foreclosures, and short sales. If we look at these three main sources of inventory, you'll see that it's clear this isn't like 2008. And here's the inventory graph that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So this does not have to do with anything related to new home building, but this has to do with month supply. So average annual inventory of homes. And it does not take a rocket scientist, which neither Amanda or I are, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what is different from everything else. I'm going to scroll in just a little bit because now
so anybody who was trying to buy in 2000 to 2009 and was just having a heck of a time getting offers accepted, you can see why right now.
Yep. Look at all this. So we went from back in 2008, we had, I clicked the wrong thing. So here we are, that we had the run up of the bubble and the subsequent crash from the bubble. So the average is 5.3, which is why you'll hear a lot of agents, when you talk about months of inventory, we love like that 5 to 6 number. We would love to, well, I don't know. I don't want to say we, because I want to speak for Amanda and every other real estate agent out there. But I think you would agree, Amanda, that we would love to see like 5 to 6 months of inventory. That typically dictates it's a pretty balanced market. Mm-hmm. It's even for buyers, it's even for sellers. You might, buyers might face a little bit of competition. Sellers might get a couple of offers, but not this thing where it's like, oh my gosh, I got 74 offers and it's going to sell for $200K over the asking price. Amanda, what do you think? Do you think that the market would benefit from moving closer to that traditional like 5 to 6 month inventory number?
Yeah, we just need homes on the market. I mean, it's just the inventory is just so low, there's
One of my favorite things is shadow inventory. And you have to say it like that, right? But you hear, I don't know if you've heard about this, but like shadow inventory. And every time I think about this, I think of like some weird like black gas that's like hanging out in the corner. It's like, oh, it's shadow inventory. And that's another Crash Bro term that they love to use. And it's talking about how like the inventory that's out there, but it's not on the market, but it's there if you look, but you don't see it right away. And I'm like, that's a really bad way to sell a house. Like,
I've never heard of this term before.
Oh, yeah. You gotta Google it.
And I've never referred to shadow inventory before. So.
That's because it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So shadow inventory, and I heard a Crash Bro define it. And again, any Crash Bros out there in the chat, please correct me if you think that I'm wrong. I would love to see that. The shadow inventory, the way that I was told, was like, you go to a new home builder, right? And maybe you've seen this. You're looking on the MLS, and the MLS has like 2 pins in a new home development. And you go, oh, look, this is like a new homes. Great. Two new listings for new homes. But then if you go to the new home site and you walk in, they'll be like, we have 13 homes that we can sell you. And people are like, oh my God, see, shadow inventory. They said 2, but they really have 13. That, it's like quadruple the amount that they really have. And it's all a house of cards. And you're like, well, that's because home builders sell direct to the consumer. So the only reason those home builders are putting even 1 or 2 properties in the MLS, in fact, usually what they do is they put 1 of each floor plan into the MLS. Yeah. So if they've got 5 floor plans, you'll see 5 new listings as new home builds from KB Home, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the only reason that those listings are there in the MLS anyway is so that those listings get populated to Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, so on and so forth. And also too, because some agents might have new home clients. So builders don't particularly want to put their homes in the MLS, but they know they need to, they know they have to, so they can reach the widest amount of buyers. But it's not shadow inventory. It's not like they're suppressing inventory and they're hiding it. That's not what's happening. And we can see that. I mean, look here. I mean, you talk about not getting offers accepted. Look at how just 2.3 in 2021. I remember working in these 3 years, and I remember being so tired at the end of every day and every weekend. I remember, I'll never forget, I submitted 9 offers for a client. I submitted the 10th offer. The listing agent called me and said, "Hey, congratulations, Joe. You beat out like 12 other offers. We've selected your clients. We're going to open up escrow." And my response was, "That's wonderful." Just like that. Like, I was so desensitized. Like, I was just like, all right, what's the escrow number? Who's the company? Where am I sending the deposit to? Like, I was just like, let's just get on with it. Like, it was just so difficult. I don't know, maybe you faced a similar feeling in those years. Did you have to go through a lot of offer submission in your market in those times for your buyers?
Yeah. And at that time I was listing a lot of homes too. And so it was kind of nice, but also like sorting through and like, well, vetting buyers, vetting a lot of phone calls. But it's really funny. Like, so this shadow inventory, like what I'm getting from it too, like in our market, they'll have like the floor plans on, or, a home. The home's not even built yet. It is like the home is like an idea. It's on the market, but it's an idea. So it's like not even technically inventory. And this is how builders are controlling how fast and their risk with, their liabilities of having homes built.
And who would blame them? Because they just got their clocks cleaned. They just got their clocks cleaned, but 10 years, well, a little more, about 15 years ago, they got absolutely demolished. So it's like the kid that, goes to close the back door, and they leave their finger in, and it gets, gets smashed, right? You better believe that they're going to be scared to go near that door, ever again, right? Yeah. So, and builders are the same way. So you make a good point. There isn't shadow inventory, but what they are doing is they're much more strategic with the inventory that they do release and when they release it, because after all, they would rather build 10 homes and then sell 10 and then build 10 more and then sell those 10 and then build 10 more, rather than build 30 of them and then realize, shoot, we can only sell 13. Yeah. That is not typically good for business. We have a comment. We have from Innovative. See, Innovative, I knew you'd be here. I was counting on you. I spoke about you earlier in the stream, and I'm glad to see you. Let's see. Shadow inventory is absolutely a crash prone term.
Thank you for letting me know, because I've never heard of this term before.
Thank you, Innovative. The theory is they don't list their total inventory to artificially keep the price high. And you know what? Like we were talking about, I do think that there's a little bit of validity to this, and I do think they're not listing their total inventory, and I think that it is a metric to make it seem like there's not as much to go around, and I don't think that's appropriate. But do I think that shadow inventory is going to be the downfall of the real estate market? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we've got a couple other cool slides I want to get to really quick. So here we go. This is the one that we were talking about earlier. This is what we were talking about earlier. So this is new build, right?
Yeah, this is a graph. No. Well, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so this is single family housing units completed. So
it's the building graph.
As you can see, here's the run up, more houses, and then boom, like the 4 mega hot years before it really all came crashing down, it goes nuts, and we were building a ton. And then builders were like, "Oh crap, this is not good. The ship is sinking." And then they were like, "The ship is still sinking." And now they're like, "The ship has sunk. It has sunk. It is not good. And this is a bad place to be." And so you can see, if we just do kind of like an eyeball average, we're probably averaging like right around 1,000 units per year of new home building, which is this line right here. So we're probably averaging about 1,000 new units. And you can see that we just barely in like 2022, for the first time since, well, 2008 or 9, we just got back to that sort of average point. So in order for us to bring this average up, we need to like do this level of building for the next like 10 years, which is unfortunately a very, very difficult thing to do. And I don't know if it's going to happen. So pretty alarming numbers there. And then foreclosures. This is always a big one, right? The foreclosures, everybody's going to lose their job. Everybody's going to lose their job at the same time. Foreclosures are going to skyrocket, and we're going to have a flood of inventory, and it's going to lead to a market crash, right? Because remember, the only time you can have a true market crash, and this doesn't just go for housing, this goes for any asset or commodity, is when you have an extreme gross oversupply of that asset or commodity. That's the only time you can have a true market crash. And if we look at this, so we're going to get rid of these gray areas here. These are the gray months that we had during COVID, the foreclosure moratorium. And wouldn't you know that everything is still pretty low? And the important thing to look at right here is not only are they low, but they're almost all like flat. Like there's no major increase or decrease, signifying that most homeowners are very steady and stable in the homes that they're in. And if you look at this, this is filings. This line here is 100,000. So this isn't even 100,000 filings. Guys, there's 330 million people in the United States, and less than 100,000 a quarter are filing for foreclosure. I mean, we're talking minuscule amounts of people that are in a distressed property or are underwater or are having a significant hardship with their real estate.
I'm going to say that just kind of surprises me a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
After the forbearance, that we didn't see like at least a spike, because with going that long and not having it, you would think that there'd be some built up. The interesting thing is you said at the beginning of this, that during COVID is when private equity started buying up homes. And I'm wondering if they have something to do with keeping that flat. I don't know. This is conspiracy. I've got no facts to back this, but this is just a thought.
As our friend Christina says, that's the tinfoil hat theory, right? Like this is something that, so for those watching, when we have tinfoil hat theories, this is like something that like we're talking about this stuff and we just have this idea. And like, so when we say the tinfoil hat theory, it is pure conjecture. We have no, as the kids would say, it's cap. I think I used that right.
What does that mean?
I mean, a cap is like lie.
Oh.
So if oh, you're capping, that means you're lying, right? Or if someone says like, oh, no cap, that means like for real. It's just crazy millennial speak. Or actually,
I mean, wouldn't you think like you go like 3 years with not having a single foreclosure, that when it would open back up, they'd be like, okay.
Especially when a lot of people were facing like, oh, can't work, can't make as much money.
Like hardship. And like how many people didn't go back to work after all of COVID?
Yeah. That it's very interesting stat. And this is probably one of the things that has been the biggest driver of the housing economy and market that we have today. The fact that the foreclosure thing just, thankfully, we never really had to face a significant foreclosure. And I think a lot of that has to do too with the huge equity increase that people got, right? Because coming right out of 2020, if you were a homeowner in 2019, your home, let's just say, was worth 500K. In 2021, your home was worth like 700K, just like that.
That's a very good point. And that's something that I didn't think of with my tin hat theory.
Yeah.
People are equity rich. It's not like what we've been saying this whole time. It wasn't like 07, 08 where people were behind because they were underwater with their equity, because they were getting zero down loans.
Zero down.
Couldn't afford.
They had zero down loans. They had no income or extremely low income, didn't even support the loan amount. I remember a story. One of my preferred lenders was in Las Vegas in 2007, right before stuff really hit the fan. And she was there for a real estate conference. And she lands at the airport, gets in a cab, and is driving to her hotel on the Strip. And as she's driving, he's, talking with the cab driver, and the subject of real estate comes up because the cab driver asks, oh, what are you in town for? Oh, real estate conference. Oh, okay, great. And this cab driver starts talking about how he's driving down from the airport to the Strip, which is not a very far drive. And the cab driver starts pointing out, oh yeah, I own a condo in that community. I own 2 condos in that community, and I'm closing on my fourth condo over in that community. And my lender goes, not to, make judgment, but I thought to myself, how is a cab driver in Las Vegas buying 4 condos? Like, how is this possible? And sure enough, within 3 months, turns out it wasn't possible because people were getting ninja loans, right? No income, no jobs, no asset, and unverified. And people didn't have equity. They were, zero down, teaser rates. It was just crazy. It was crazy what the difference was between then and now. And it's wild. So we have a little bit of time left, and I want to make sure. Yes, this is the one that I believe I want to screenshot. But before I do, okay, so I got 2 quick graphs I want to show you guys, and then we'll be done here. So we talked about lending regulations, right? Great segue. It's almost like I knew where we were going next, almost. Lending regulations are steady. So historical data from the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. Look at this stuff. Okay, so this is available credit. So this mumbo jumbo basically says this is like the strength of borrowers in the United States. Lower number is better. So in June 2006, the available credit for Mortgage Credit Availability Index was at 868.7. So quite literally almost off the chart. Crash goes crashing way down. And look where we are now. We're almost tied for the low. It looked like maybe June of 2011, which was the true bottom. 2011, 2012 is looked at as the bottom of the GFC sort of event, if you will. And here we are. Look at, we're at 100.5. So we're in a much better spot in terms of the loans that are being made and the lending criteria and standards for the loans that home buyers are getting now. And this is one major reason. This reason and the lack of inventory and high demand are the 2 paramount reasons that if you are someone that's looking to buy a home, you should not be worrying about those things when it comes to a market crash. Should you be like worried about like if we get into World War III? Okay, that's viable, right? Geopolitical is always something that could happen at any time, and it could have a huge effect. But when it comes
and the last geopolitical thing that just happened just spiked inventory.
That's true. You're exactly right. It did. So who knows how it goes, right?
Or not spike inventory, valuations.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. And yeah, you're right. The last geopolitical, this one happened to be like, health thing with COVID. I mean, that COVID is the reason I'm sitting in the house I'm sitting in right now, because COVID was the reason that I had such huge equity and value increase on my first home that allowed me to sell it, take that equity, and buy this home that, quite frankly, I never would have thought I would have been able to purchase. So who knows? It could work out to your favor. The other thing I want to talk about, this to me is very, very interesting. This is a very quick, easy to digest graph. I'm going to see if I can make it a little bigger. There we go. So length of crisis different than last time. So the crisis last time was the GFC, was the Great Financial Meltdown. The crisis this time being COVID. Let's take a look at these. So the Great Recession is in red. You can see it took some time to wind up. And then unemployment, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at unemployment. 6%. 6% is a problem. 6% is kind of the border. Anything under about 5-6%, we're considered fully employed. That's good. That means Americans are working. Anything over 6% means we got a little bit of a problem. It means people are out of work and we need to get them back to work because the economy is not going to like that. So we can see that the run-up was much slower in comparison, and then peaked up, and then look how high it stayed, and it took forever to come back down to that below 6 level. In fact, it took about 7 years, and even then, up until the 9th year, which would have been sometime in 2016, it was still at 4.7%, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but we've been much lower than that recently. And now let's take a look at the pandemic. So January of 2020, Man, January. Think back, Amanda. Think back to your life in January of 2020, and about how amazing that time was before all of the madness unfolded. Right? Like if we could just go back and savor that time. January 2020, we had 3.5% unemployment. The economy was doing great. Home prices were steadily rising, but at a good, reasonable pace. And then COVID hits. And unemployment spikes way up because everything was closed. And then everything started to open back up. And we were below 6% less than 1 year later. And then we went way back down and we leveled off to 3.5%, back to pre-crisis levels very quickly in just 2 years. Well, 2.5 years, we were back to pre-crisis levels. So to me, this is a very kind of interesting display that shows the difference between the crisis. And yeah, it doesn't specifically have any correlation to what we're seeing now with housing prices and what the market will do. But it's just further proof that the great financial crisis and COVID are like oil and vinegar. They're so completely different. Were they each a big crisis that affected Americans and the housing market? Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But one was chocolate and one was vanilla. And you can pick which one's which. I don't care. but completely different. So I got one last thing I want to go over really quick. And this is what you were alluding to a little bit earlier.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a month-by-month breakdown of shift in home prices since 1990. So there's two versions of this table. One table is yearly price changes from like 1930 to today. Mm-hmm. I like this one a little bit more because it's a little bit more recent and there's a little bit more detail because it's month to month. So we're going to break this up into three sections. The first section is going to be normal times, normal. And this is going to be from 1990 to basically about 2005. You can see here in 1990, we had a little bit, I was much too young to remember this. Amanda, I don't know about yourself, but 1990 and 91, we did have a little dip. We had a little recession, nothing big, nothing major, not a huge problem, but a recession. Another thing that you can very, very clearly see here is the toll of seasonality on real estate.
Yeah.
So if you look at January through March, it's like pinkish, like light blue, almost white, but very light blue, like, very light lavender. And if you look at September, October, November, December, same thing, like kind of like reddish, lightish. And then if you look at April, May, June, July, it's like all blue because this is when people buy and sell houses. So interesting kind of graphic to display that. Oh, we have another comment. Is this political? Let's see. Do you think Trump win is bullish or bearish for housing based on his policies? Okay. I'll take a crack at this. And then Amanda, if you'd like to take a crack at this, you're more than welcome to, or you can just be like, no, thanks. Do I think a Trump win is bullish or bearish for the housing based on his policies?
I don't know what his policies were. Did he ever come out and say anything about
I know he was talking about, trying to build some more houses. Both him and Kamala were very like, we need more houses. But again, that's something that like, I don't know how the president really would have any effect on what home builders either do or don't do, other than like giving some ridiculous tax incentive or tax cuts or something. But innovative, obviously, I like you. You're in my streams all the time. You're one of my faithful people. And I'm not trying to duck or dodge your question. I don't know. I think overall, a Trump White House is probably slightly on to the more bullish side, but I'm even reluctant to even call it bullish. I would just say it's leaning a little bit more towards that side, simply because if Kamala would have won, she was talking about this $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Well, if you give first-time home buyers $25,000 tax credits, then all your affordable housing is going to go up by $25,000, and that's not really going to be much of a solution, in my opinion. But whatever you think of Trump, whatever, it is what it is. But we all know that Trump can act very quickly about things, and a lot of times the housing market and markets of the economy don't like knee-jerk reactions to things. So that's what I'll say on that. Amanda, would you like to tackle this question?
Yeah, I'll say what I know, and that's not a lot because I don't know that Trump even came out and said anything about a housing policy. I do know, okay, lean heavy into derate. That's what we need. So that's the one thing I'll come out and say, like, politically, I was leaning towards Harris, but it was actually her housing policy that I absolutely did not like. Printing more money is not going to solve our problems. It is regulation that is our problem with housing. It is zoning. Agree. It is, all of this red tape that builders have to go through, and it's land. We are getting land tight. And that's what is going to help with the housing, in my opinion.
You make a great point.
Money, when you say, I'm going to give a seller $10,000 to sell their house to a first-time home, $10,000 does not make up the difference of 3 months of the interest difference that these people are going to be incurring. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Yeah. So anyways, that's my rant.
I agree with you. And I agree with you in the fact that the biggest problem facing new construction is bureaucracy and red tape. I mean, before builders can even like put a shovel into the ground, they're in the hole a couple $100,000 for each house, right? Because you got to consider the land that they're on. Then they have to get permits to build it. They have to get approvals from the city for their whatever tract they're developing. Then usually also too, they have to do environmental studies. Like here in California, you have to do a thing called a CEQA, which is California Environmental Requirement Report. I don't know, something. And that CEQA report alone takes months, if not years. And all that is time, and time is money. And I'm not saying we should just completely let builders have their run of the town and they, builder, do whatever you want. But we need to make it easier for builders to build. And if we make it easier for builders to build, we'll probably have more builders. More builders means two things: more properties being built and more competition amongst builders, potentially leading to lower pricing. So I agree with you on that, Amanda. I do think that
infrastructure, like where we are, we're kind of I don't want to say we're a rural community. We are a city, but we are sprawling into all these rural areas and there's no sewer or water. So now we're putting people on septic and wells, which is so expensive. But one thing that Washington just did, and I don't know if California has done this as well, but they pretty much outlawed single family residential zoning. So now we have developers putting ADUs or DADUs, detached on lots and condominiumizing the lot with 2 homes on it so they can sell something else, which is a great way to actually bring in affordable housing,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And that's the kind of movement that we need.
I agree. And so you can see from this table, you can see the one time in the last 34 years that the housing market really took a hit. And guess what? It was in 2008, 2009. And then, it recovered quite nicely. These are unicorn years. These are offshoots. If we were to throw these years out, everything would look great. And you can see currently, I mean, look at these gains. This is percentage per month of the year. So could you imagine on any asset you have, you made, let's just take 2021, for example, which is another unicorn year. I'll give you that because of COVID. But imagine owning an asset and in January you made 0.9%. And then in February you made another 1.2%. And then you made another 2.1%. And then 2.3, and then 2.3, and 2.2. I mean, this is insanity. And so, I mean, if you just take a look at the averages, look at these averages over the course of 34 years. By the way, 34 years is a phenomenal sample size. If you're ever looking at a study and the study spans 34 years worth of data, that's good. And so you can see here that the biggest price decline on average per month is 0.1%. And these are both in the worst months of the year to sell a house. So this isn't really that alarming. And you still see that you've got great appreciation. So in the rest of the months. So again, I just don't see a whole lot happening in terms of, okay, so there's a couple things that line up with 2007 as they do right now. Another really popular Crash Bro one that I saw, and I don't know if you've heard or seen this, Amanda, but I saw a Crash Bro say in the third week of September of 2007, the Fed cut interest rates by 50 basis points. And in the third week of September of 2024, the Fed lowered interest rates by 0.5%, the same rate cut. And I was like, okay. And I'm assuming that the Fed also woke up that day and ate breakfast and then ate dinner at night. Like, this is, okay, so what? Like, what does that actually mean? And I don't think it really means anything. But at the end of the day, I don't see anything that points to an immediate housing recession. I don't see an immediate housing crash. I just don't see anything that points to that. Amanda, I'm assuming you probably agree.
Yeah. It's like saying, you have a yellow shirt on. I have a yellow shirt on. We must be the same.
Exactly. We must be related. We both have yellow shirts on.
The same. Yeah.
That's a great question. And for those of you, speaking of where you are, Amanda, and in your rural area, if those of you looking to share this tab, there we go. If those of you, oh, it went away. There we go. Those of you looking in the central Washington area, Amanda is an excellent realtor in that area. She is in Wenatchee?
That's close.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm in Wenatchee, Washington, so pretty much right on the Columbia River and the Cascade Mountains, and I service Lake Chelan and Cle Elum area.
Cool. And so are all these areas, where is the lake that you just mentioned? If I wanted to look at it, where would it be?
Yeah, it's a little bit north of of Wenatchee.
Is it this guy here? Oh yeah, here.
I can't see what you're looking at.
Oh.
Yeah, and that lake's 55 miles long. That's a huge lake. That lake is like the 4th largest, deepest lake in the U.S.
Yeah, that is wild. It's very, very, very long. Okay. Yeah. So you service it, and you said you were in kind of like a second home market. Is this that area, or
that and then Leavenworth, which is like very famous Bavarian town for the Pacific Northwest. It's like the must do. And then Cle Elum. So those are they're all in the Cascade Mountains, so they're mountain towns.
Nice.
Well, Lake Chelan's not. That's a lake town. But
and I think you're forgetting the biggest selling point of your area that I brought up backstage. Isn't your city the apple capital of like the entire universe?
That's funny. Yeah. Wenatchee's claim to fame is the apple capital of the world.
Wow.
And it is. You can buy apples from this area in Japan. So there you go.
Really? They ship these to Japan. These are like in Japan, they go crazy for these apples?
Oh, China, like all over the world, literally.
Wow.
When you're well, you guys probably grow quite a few apples in California, but if you ever see one that says Chelan on it, that's where it's from.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. And if you guys are interested in learning more about real estate in that area, let me share this tab instead. This is Amanda's YouTube channel.
That's funny.
This is Amanda's channel, and you can see she's got a lot of really, really good videos. A lot of it is about relocation. So if you're wondering about different areas to move to, she does some videos on that. And then of course you've got some local content too, right, Amanda? You do some local videos about the local area.
Yeah, yep. There's some local content about the different areas, and starting to kind of reach out a little bit to some more national content.
Nice. And you said that national content, that's more like that you're working on. That's more the relocation stuff, right?
Yeah, it is. I have quite a few videos too on like buyer's tips, like when you're looking at homes, what to look out for, that type of stuff.
Oh, good. That's important stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking for an agent in the Washington area, Amanda, she's the one for you. But if you are looking for an agent that's not in Washington, if you're looking for an agent anywhere else in the United States, or if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the Southern California area and you would like to work directly with me, you can go to workwithjoerealtor.com. This is up on your screen here, workwithjoerealtor.com. And it's really simple. You can read a little bit about me, and any button you hit, any of the things that you do on this website will take you to a forum where you can talk to me. So it's really, really simple. So if you need a real estate referral anywhere in the United States, please let me know. I'd be happy to connect you with a good agent that actually knows what they're doing. Believe it or not every real estate agent is as charismatic and smart as me or Amanda. There's a lot of really crappy agents out there, and we want to make sure you avoid dealing with those agents because they suck. And buying a house or selling a house is really, really important. So if you need a good agent, reach out to me. Let me know. Amanda, you have been phenomenal. Thank you for coming on to the stream.
Yeah.
It's been so nice having you. You were a great first guest, and I hope to have you back at some point in the future. And we'll have to talk I'll have to think of another good topic. I'm thinking maybe next time what we'll do is I'm such a sucker for comments. I was thinking maybe we'll do a stream where we'll just go into like the real estate section on Reddit, and then we'll talk a bunch of smack about the people that are doing real estate wrong in there. That's always a fun time.
It sounds dangerous.
Yeah, right? It is. And for everybody that stuck around, this was a great stream. We had great viewership. Thanks for hanging out. As a quick reminder, if you like the stream, please drop a like right below. It should be right over here somewhere. Drop a like. If you really liked it, consider subscribing to the channel, turn the alerts on, so that way you can be notified whenever I go live in the future or put out a new video. I will see you guys next Wednesday, same time, same place right here, 6:30 p.m. For another great topic. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.